What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies, and we have officially made it through November of 2023. So now it's time to do what we've done at the end of every month in 2023, and that is rank all of the brand new movie releases that I had a chance to see from worst to best. Now, I'm sorry I got this video out a little bit late. I tried to drop them right at the end of the month, and it's now already December, but I dropped this late because I decided I was going to give the Hunger Games prequel movie a chance. I decided to skip it originally, and then two different people reached out to me, and they were like, it's great, it's amazing, it's fantastic, you've got to check it out. And I was like, well, if it's that good, I want it on my list. And then if I don't like it, I want it on my list so that I could tell those people in this video that it's a bad movie. You'll find out where it's ranked here in a minute. But with all that said, though, guys, if you have seen any of the movies that I'm about to talk about on this list, throw those in the comment section down below. Rank them from worst to best. Let me know how you feel about these movies. And if I missed something, maybe something came out in November that I didn't rank on this list because I just didn't have time, whether it went to streaming or theaters, throw that in the comment section. Let me know why you liked it or why you disliked it. But with all that said, let's get into ranking November 2023 movie releases from worst to best. Now, coming in at number 8, guys, we have the worst movie that was released in the month of November, in my opinion, and that is It's a Wonderful Knife. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on this movie because lower budget horror movies, you know, people are like, give them a chance. But here's the thing. It's a movie, it released in theaters, so I have to judge it along with other brand new movies that came out. It's a full-length movie. It's not like some short that came out, so I'm just judging it on that. It is a full-length horror movie, and it's a spin on a Christmas genre classic in It's a Wonderful Life. In this movie, a girl ends up stopping a serial killer, and then later on she wishes she'd never been born. She gets her wish granted, but the serial killer was never caught because she was never born, and so now the serial killer's on the run, and he's played by Justin Long, which isn't a spoiler. That's in the trailer. That's all announced. So with that premise, I was going into the movie with high hopes, high expectations, and while I like the setup of this movie and I enjoy the first act of this movie, the last two acts of this movie are a complete letdown, and it's a spiraling letdown when you get to that very end of the movie, and it's just like all of a sudden the serial killer has mind control powers. There's just a lot of things that didn't work for me in this movie, one of them being the way Justin Long portrayed his character. He was this weird southern accent character. He was weird. I didn't like it. The point is, I wasn't a big fan of It's a Wonderful Knife, and so that's why it's at number 8. At number 7, guys, we have the movie that I held off on this list for, and that is The Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Yeah, I should have known going into this movie, since it was called A Ballad of Songbirds, that there was going to be someone that was doing musical numbers throughout, but that didn't occur to me. I went and saw this movie, and when she started singing, I was like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? And she does it like 6 more times, which I guess if you're for the story, if you're trying to build the character and explain why this person is loved by the people watching the Hunger Games, okay, I understand that. But when it's a near 3-hour movie and you're just sitting there and it won't end, it gets so frustrating. There was one point where the Hunger Games are done, and I was like, wow, okay, well, decent movie, not bad. And then it was like, oh, no, there's still a whole act to go. You got to see them lay in the forest. You got to see them swim in the water. You got to see them shoot at each other. Maybe she got away. Maybe she didn't. We're not going to say, because if this movie does well, there's going to be another prequel movie. And it's just like, it's so irritating. And I don't have that special connection that a lot of people do to the original Hunger Games movie. So they're going over the Snow character's beginnings, and he's like the evil guy in the Hunger Games movies, to my knowledge. There was a lot of callbacks or call forwards. I don't know how you... The point is, there was a lot of like, oh, this is something that's going to be set up in the next one. Katniss, it's the name of the plant. Like, it's just like all these different setups, and they didn't mean anything to me. So for me personally, not a huge fan of the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games prequel movie didn't do it for me, and that's why it's at number 7. At number 6, guys, we have The Marvels. The Marvels is the MCU's 33rd release, and I wanted it to be good. I am not somebody that went into the theater hoping that it was going to be bad. I wasn't somebody that doesn't like Brie Larson as a person. I just want a good MCU movie. And the MCU since Endgame, in my opinion, has been lackluster outside of Spider-Man No Way Home. Outside of that Spider-Man movie, which was mostly just nostalgia bait, the MCU hasn't been the same. I mean, none of those movies are at the top of my list, so I didn't have high hopes for the Marvels, and the previews weren't really doing it for me either. But before the movie came out, there was a trailer that dropped that made it look like the main villain of this Marvels movie, Dar-Ben, was going to carry on Thanos' legacy. And when I saw that, I was like, now that's an interesting angle. I'd like to see somebody carry on Thanos' legacy, since he was the big bad of the first phase of the MCU. So it's cool to see a callback there. And then you get in the movie, and that was a complete and utter lie. Never once in the movie is that a plot line. and it was just so disappointing at that point. So not only did Marvel kind of set themselves up for failure when they put out that just terrible trailer that was a lie to the fans, but then you get into this very subpar movie with a very subpar plot about Captain Marvel essentially being the villain while everyone else was the good guy, including the bad guy. None of it worked for me. I still put it above Hunger Games because at least it wasn't like, I didn't feel the runtime like I did the previous movie, but this movie was bad, and that's why it's at number 6. We've made it to the top 5 of November, and at number 5 is a David Fincher film that I wanted to love. It went directly to Netflix, which was a red flag. Originally, I was like, Netflix movies have not been great this year. It starred Michael Fassbender, and it's called The Killer. The Killer, of course, like I said, it's a Netflix-released movie, so you can watch it right now if you want, and it's about an assassin kind of going through a crisis. He goes to make his shot on a target, he misses, and his life gets into a spiral, and he has to get out of the assassin world. But on his way out of the assassin world, he takes several people down with him. Now, just from the synopsis of the movie, that was very interesting to me. I was like, I love Michael Fassbender. I think David Fincher is a great director, so let's go. It's an assassin who's trying to get his way out of this assassin organization. Something goes wrong, and he has to take matters in his own hand. It's not very original, but okay, let's give it a shot. And there's one scene in this movie that lived up to all of that hype. There is an action scene in this movie that might be one of the best action scenes of the year. And if you're going to watch this movie, or if you're interested in this movie, that's the scene I would recommend you skip forward to, because that's the only, in my opinion, great scene in this movie. Whereas the rest of the movie does not fit the tone of that scene, and you have a very slow-paced movie about an assassin sort of going through a crisis, and he's monologuing almost the entire time. And so that movie doesn't fit that action scene, or that action scene does not fit the rest of the movie, and the tones are way off. So while I don't think I'll ever revisit this movie, I understand what Fincher was going for, but it didn't work for me personally, so that's why The Killer is number 5. At number 4, we have The Marshlands Daughter, starring Ben Mendelsohn and Daisy Ridley. Now, Ben Mendelsohn actually plays this guy who kidnapped a woman and then got her pregnant and kept her in captivity out in the woods. They had a child together, then he keeps that child in captivity. That child grows up to be Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley's character was taken away from her abusive father. He was sent to jail. She grew up to have a somewhat normal life, but then one day he escapes and he comes back for her and his now granddaughter, and he wants to take both of them to his marshlands cabin in the woods and live with them out there. So he's insane. He's eventually going to get caught. Technology has gotten better. They'll just send a drone in to find him, but that's the premise of this movie. And I had no idea this movie was even coming out till about a week before. I saw a trailer for it and I had time, and I was like, all right, I'll go check this movie out. Now, I think it's better than the other movies I've already talked about on this list, but its downfall for me is just it's very paint by numbers. Like, I gave you the setup synopsis for this movie, and you could pretty much predict exactly what's going to happen. It's like, okay, he's going to get out of jail, and then he's going to do this. And then there's a twist, and they're like, oh, maybe he died in a car crash, but you're like, no, he didn't. And then, no, he didn't. And then she goes out to find him, and you're like, oh, well, he's going to get the upper hand, and oh, he got the upper hand. And then, oh, she might get the upper hand on him. And I won't spoil how the movie ends, but again, it's very predictable. It's a very just one watch movie for me. Not a bad movie. I just liked some of the actors they had in this movie. I thought the acting was good overall. The plot was fine, but it just felt paint by number, and that's why it's a number 4. All right, guys, we made it to the top 3, and at top 3 means we got to have a drink of Pure Leaf tea. That's right, I'm bringing it back. Pure Leaf tea. They don't sponsor me, but they should. Okay, with all that said, though, guys, let's get into the top 3. At number 3 is a movie I was very much so looking forward to, and it wasn't a letdown, but it did have its pacing issues, and I'm talking about Napoleon. Napoleon was directed by Ridley Scott, who made my favorite movie in 2021 in The Last Duel, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix, of course, Joaquin Phoenix from so many things, but most importantly, the Joker, which he's now filming Joker 2, which is going to come out next year, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But back to the movie Napoleon. Napoleon is the life of the Emperor Napoleon in France as his rise to power, and then sort of trying to hold on to that power, and then losing that power, all while being wrapped inside of a, I don't want to call it a love story because there wasn't much love there between him and his wife, but it was a story of sort of mutual needing each other. And I liked that. That worked for me between all of these epic war scenes, and there were some epic war scenes. You had a good character study of Napoleon and his wife. So that worked for me, and most of this movie did. I actually had a very enjoyable time while watching it. The only time I didn't enjoy this movie was sort of the pace, and what I mean by that is that there was a 6-year jump, and then a 10-year jump, and then a 6-year jump, and then a 10-year jump, and it just seemed off. And when I got out of the movie, I looked it up, and sure enough, Ridley Scott's getting a director's cut that's coming to Apple TV in a month, and that director's cut is going to sort of fill in some of those gaps. And I was like, well, why didn't you just release the finished product? I mean, Scorsese was able to deliver a 4-hour movie in Killers of the Flower Moon, so why didn't you deliver a 4-hour movie in this? Like, the 4-hour cut's going to be saved for Apple TV so you can watch it a second time. Now, I am interested in watching it a second time. So I liked this movie. I wish I loved it. I wanted to just make sure this movie was in my top 10. I gave it everything I had. I went to the biggest screen possible. I sat down. I enjoyed this movie. But the pacing issues sort of held it back for me a little bit, and that's why it's at number 3. At number 2, there will be no leftovers. We just found out today that they actually greenlit a sequel, so I guess there were some leftovers, and that, of course, is Thanksgiving. Directed by Eli Roth, Thanksgiving is a new Thanksgiving holiday slasher movie, and it feels a lot like Scream. It feels a lot like teenagers on the run from a masked killer who is out to get them for specific reasons, and all of that worked for me. I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't have too many negative things to say about it in my review for this movie. I did really enjoy this movie overall, and the gore and the guts and the blood, that all is there for you. So if you're a big gore fan, you'll enjoy the goriness of this movie. I liked how the killer would use Thanksgiving table items to take out his victims for the most part, so I like that too. And overall, this movie was fun, and it's a movie I will go back to each year going forward. I'm very excited for the sequel next year. Thanksgiving is number 2. And now we've gotten to number 1, the best movie in November. Of course, that's in my personal opinion. I'd love to know yours in the comment section. But the best movie in November of 2023 for me was The Holdovers. The Holdovers starred Paul Giamatti as a teacher at a boys' school in 1969 who gets selected to stay with the kids who can't go home for the holidays. He doesn't have family to go home to anyway. He was just going to sit at the school over the holidays anyway. He's kind of a grumpy old man, and he's like, fine, I'll do it. So he stays with these kids. Most of them find a way out. They find parents or families to go to, but one of the boys does not. And so Paul Giamatti and that boy have to learn to get along, and they do not like each other to start. And what I loved about this movie is that they didn't like each other to start, and it spends a good amount of the runtime sort of stripping that back, showing how much they don't like each other, and then slowly but surely building that relationship together between the two of them, showing the student and teacher relationship, sort of a father figure to this boy, and it was such a good, heartfelt movie. But on top of all of that, it is a Christmas classic because yes, it takes place over the holidays. There's Christmas music throughout. There's a lot of Christmas trees, and the movie just made me feel good inside. I like leaving the theater and having a smile on my face, and that's what I got when I left The Holdovers. I felt good. I felt like I had a smile. I was like, oh, I have a little bit of faith in humanity again, that we can get movies that make me feel something, and it's not just a shoot 'em up action movie. I really loved The Holdovers. I recommend it to each and every one of you. It is my favorite movie in November of 2023. And guys, that's my ranked list of November 2023 from worst to best. If you want to hear more in-depth thoughts on these movies, well, I've done movie reviews for most of them or YouTube shorts. You can find them on my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and check out my movie reviews or Blu-ray talk. As you can see, I have a huge collection of movies back there, and I love updating it and talking about those movies. Finally, guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of the November 2023 movies ranked, and I've loved doing these this year. I have one more to do to complete a full year of ranked videos, and of all the new videos I've tried this year, this is one that's going to stick. This is one I'm going to do going forward every year. I love doing the end of month ranked videos, and next month, not only do I get to do the end of month December ranked video, but I'm going to put out an all movies I saw this year, which we're at 82 right now. We'll be well over 90 by the end of the year. I'm going to do that ranked worst to best. It's going to be a huge video. It's going to be a long video, so grab some popcorn because we're going to have a good time. With that said, if you want to check out any of my other ranked videos this year, you can click right there. Or if you want to check out any of my 2023 movie reviews, you can click right there.